Sonic What If is sponsored by Into the AM. Get 10% off your purchase at intotheam.com/Scourge or intotheam.eu/Scourge. Hey everyone, I'm the Sega Scourge and welcome back once again to another Sonic What If. Now I'm sure a lot of you can share my feelings on this, but of all the character stories in Sonic Adventure 1, one of them had an immense lasting impression on me as a kid. Probably because it made my little runny-nosed self cry like a baby experiencing it. And that is the story of the unsung hero E-102 Gamma. For a quick summary, Gamma's life began in the final Egg base, where he was constructed as part of the E-100 series, Eggman's new line of elite battle robots. He showed promise above his older brother Beta and was brought aboard the Egg Carrier to further serve the Doctor. It wasn't until Gamma met Amy Rose and the little blue birdie that the cold and calculating machine started exhibiting signs of something akin to a soul. Somehow, seeing the blue flicky created an interaction with its sibling, the pink flicky inside of Gamma. An unexpected glitch in Gamma's system occurred, freeing Amy and taking his first steps towards independence and defection from the Doctor. We know that by the end of the story, Gamma, having undergone his mission to seek out and destroy the other E-Series robots and set free the animals inside of them, ultimately perished alongside E-101 Beta Mark II. Finally unbound, the pink flicky that was powering Gamma reunited with its sibling, the white bird inside of Beta, and later the blue one that Amy was safeguarding, all three of them having been separated due to Eggman's evil ambitions. The pink bird also arrived at Station Square with Amy during the final battle with Perfect Chaos, a kind of spiritual reference to Gamma. I remember being absolutely heartbroken by Gamma's death. I even remember when Sonic Heroes was coming out and I saw an image of Omega in the game and I got really excited because I thought it was Gamma. And then Sonic X made me relive Gamma's death all over again, and that shot of Gamma holding Beta's hand still makes me choke up today every time I see it. But if you're going to watch Gamma's story in X, then I recommend you watch that in Japanese, because Gamma's voice in the 4Kids dub is, well...
Give me the little bird.
But yeah, those of you who watched my Emerald What If already know I have a particular soft spot for robot characters in Sonic. So, since Emerald got to live on in his own AU, why not give Gamma the same treatment? The topic of today's video, as you can see by the title, is what if E-102 Gamma survived? But under what circumstances could Gamma have survived in SA1? What kind of narrative could we craft for Gamma if his demise was somehow avoided? I think it's worth noting, of course, I am aware that in the Archie comics, Gamma did actually survive past the SA1 story, and I know just by the title some people might be expecting me to go down the road that the comics did, but let it be known now that I will not be drawing from Archie canon for this What If. I want to do something original and unexpected, not copy from any existing material. For the most part, Gamma's story would play out much like it does in the original game, with him tracking down each of the E-Series robots and setting free the animals inside of them as part of his new primary directive. In Sonic Adventure 1, Gamma was somehow able to geolocate the other E-Series without explicitly knowing whereabouts they were. This suggested that he was on some kind of wireless network with all the other robots, perhaps implying that all the E-Series are linked together and know the status of one another. The only difference in this What If is that E-101 Beta is not on this network. Do you remember how Gamma deduced that Beta and Zeta were aboard the crashed Egg Carrier, even confirming Zeta's location once he got there? Well, in this story, Beta is mysteriously missing from the neural network. He's just appearing as offline. Somehow, in this story, the Egg Carrier's crash was so intense that it separated Beta from Eggman's network during the process of him undergoing upgrades to become Mark II. From this, Gamma just assumes that Beta must have somehow expired, and in turn, this would mean the animal inside of him was released. Yeah, I know it's a plot convenience thing, but Sonic operates on plot convenience, so I'm just gonna roll with it. Just like in the game, Gamma finds himself aboard the Egg Carrier once again. He makes his way to the hot shelter and successfully terminates the gargantuan Zeta. Once back outside, he lists off the remaining E-Series units to hunt down. With a detached realization, he looks at his hand blankly, stating, "Gamma, As far as he knows, he's the last E-series in operation. Right about here, Beta Mark II would fly by and Gamma would go after him so the two of them can have their grudge match. But in this story, that doesn't happen. Yet. For some reason, Beta's running a little bit late and doesn't show up at this interval. Making the logical assumption that he's the last of his kind, Gamma begins the process to permanently cease function. He looks out to the sparkling ocean as his major systems begin to shut down. Finally, his display turns to static and he hunches forward, having ended his own life. From his back panel, the pink flicky emerges, stretching out its wings and flying around in glee. It lands in front of Gamma and observes him almost somberly. Just then, from overhead, Beta Mark II makes his appearance and spots the now lifeless Gamma. He scans the robot, trying to determine what's happened to him, but before he can complete his inspection, the pink bird pops up in front of Beta's display, tweeting at him, as if trying to say something. Just like the blue bird did with Gamma, the pink one is somehow aware that a member of its family is inside Beta and is attempting to call out to it, to gift Beta with the same free will. Just as Gamma did, Beta begins experiencing some strange and anomalous system changes. But E-101 Mark II is a fiercely dedicated and ruthless robot. It remains utterly silent and shows no signs of sentience. Then, without hesitation, the iron-hearted machine smacks the pink bird out of the way with one of its blaster arms, knocking it down to the ground. The bird is now badly injured, fluttering around, barely able to fly a few inches at a time. Life is rapidly leaving its tiny feathery body. Beta continues to analyze Gamma and determines that his life battery has been disconnected from him. He declares the robot deceased and prepares to depart. Beta turns to leave, and that's when, suddenly, a blast connects with his back, exploding into sparks and electricity. He turns, revealing Gamma, with his gun pointed, now somehow back online. Units remaining. Beta. I'm sure you're wondering, how is Gamma back alive? Well, it turns out the pink flicky that was injured flew back inside of Gamma's back panel, becoming Gamma's battery once again and rebooting him. Why? Well, for two reasons. One, because the bird was distressed by its injury and simply wanted to find a small enclosure in which it could hide in. And two, because it somehow recognized Gamma as a friend and instinctively flew to him to get to safety. The revitalized Gamma engages Beta Mark II, just like in the original game. However, unlike the original, Gamma got the drop on Beta with that first surprise shot, and as we know from the boss fight, Beta's weak point is actually on his back. This turns the tide of an otherwise one-sided battle. Beta is still a dangerous opponent, but Gamma is managing to hold his own a lot better than he did in the actual story. Not only that, but this is Gamma at the end of SA1, so he not only has the jet booster that he picked up earlier in the story, but upon revisiting the egg carrier, he picked up the laser blaster too. Due to all of these factors, Gamma begins dominating the crippled Beta and doesn't pull any punches. Because of the extra time that has passed in this what-if version of the story, Amy and the Blue Bird have just arrived aboard the egg carrier during the fight between Gamma and Beta. Amy is of course there to help the Blue Bird find the missing members of its family. She hears the conflict going on and goes to investigate. From her hiding spot, she peeks out and notices Mr. Robot, the one that freed her from Eggman's cell earlier in the story. She keeps her head down for the moment and watches as Gamma, with some effort, begins to outmaneuver his older brother. Despite numerous improvements, E-101 Mark II is destroyed, setting free the white flicky inside of him. Gamma is appeased. He then finalizes his log. E-101 Beta. Rescue complete. The white flicky happily flies around Gamma, and this triggers some genetic memories of the pink bird inside of him. The blue bird responds to the sight of its family member and flies out of hiding towards the white one. Gamma sees the two birds soar towards each other, but then detects something hostile nearby. It's Zero, the relentless chase master who's followed Amy and the bird all the way to the egg carrier. Zero takes aim at the blue birdie in midair. However, before Zero can even fire his extendable fist, Gamma turns and with one shot completely decimates Zero, blowing the big green trash can to pieces. With the bird safe, Gamma watches as they reunite, twirling around in midair as if they're dancing. He then turns and sees the pink hedgehog that he met earlier step towards him. Amy is happy to see Mr. Robot once again, explaining that she was trying to find this little blue bird's other siblings, now realizing that one of them was trapped inside that robot the whole time. Something she knows Eggman likes to do. She thanks Gamma for helping bring them back together. In that moment, Amy recalls the locket around the blue bird's neck and notes that there were 3 birds in that photo. She wonders where the third one might be. The 2 birds then descend out of the air and perch onto Gamma's shoulders, calm, nuzzling into him as if they've always known him. Seeing this, it doesn't take Amy long to put 2 and 2 together and realize that the last one is inside of Gamma. That's why the 2 birds are sticking close to him, because they know that a member of their family is right there by their side. She now realizes why Gamma let her and the birdie go from the cell and why he took out this black and white robot. He's been trying to set them all free. Gamma conveys his mission to Amy, to destroy all the other E-Series robots and to save his friends. She then sees Gamma's designation painted on his chest, and Gamma reaffirms that he is the last surviving member of his line. As the last unit remaining, there is no other choice but for him to cease functioning in order to allow the pink flicky to go free. Gamma is resolute. He begins his shutdown procedure once again, with Amy pleading for him to stop, saying there must be some other way. But just then, as the process is almost complete, Gamma abruptly stops and states, "Something is wrong." He runs a check of his internals and the pink flicky inside of him. Amy is confused, asking what's going on. Gamma reveals that the bird inside of him is hurt and close to death. Removing it now would be far too dangerous. Gamma cannot process this newfound revelation. If this is true, then his mission would be permanently incomplete. But Amy comes up with a plan. She walks over to where Beta blew up and scoops up all of his leftover parts. She turns and tells Gamma to come with her, and she'll take him to someone who might be able to help. There might still be a way to remove the pink flicky safely while also preserving Gamma's life. Besides, the 2 other flickies seem glued to their new robotic friend, and Amy promised that she would look after them, so she sternly forces Gamma to come with her, to which he complies. Not only that, but Gamma is a little banged up after his fight with Beta, so he could use some repairs. During their departure, Amy realizes that she's never asked his name, simply calling him Mr. Robot. He responds, "Gamma." Amy smiles and introduces herself as Amy Rose. Together, the 2 of them leave the egg carrier and return to the Mystic Ruins. There, they reunite with Sonik and Tails, the 2 having just defeated Eggman. Both of them are notably unnerved by the appearance of the robot, but just like on the egg carrier, Amy assures them that he's a good guy. She explains that his name is Gamma, and he helped free her from captivity and saved the lives of the 2 birds sitting on his shoulders. They mull it over. But seeing the sincerity of Amy, Sonik welcomes the spindly red droid and introduces himself as Sonic the Hedgehog, holding out his hand with a warm smile on his face. Gamma looks down, kind of confused, so Sonik gently takes Gamma's hand and matches it with his own, forming a handshake. Amy explains the situation to the gang, and Tails insists that he'll do the best he can to help Gamma and the birds. Gamma's made some new friends! A day or 2 later, Amy arrives at Tails' workshop and enters. Inside, she sees the 2 birds in a little makeshift aviary that Tails has made, with food and water set out for them. They seem comforted by the fact that Gamma is sat right next to the cage, watching over them, as Tails tinkers away. Tails has spent the last 2 nights fixing up Gamma. Amy asks where Sonik has gone, and Tails says that he's gone off to take a little bit of vacation time, to which Amy rolls her eyes. Tails is extremely giddy, having had the chance to learn a little more about Eggman's tech. Not only that, but he finds Gamma a wonderfully unique and fascinating machine. He spent the nights talking to Gamma, learning about him, asking him questions. He's amazed by Gamma's self-awareness, even though he's physically identical to any other Eggman robot. Tails attributes this to some kind of ghost in the machine, and wonders if any of Eggman's other robots could exhibit these same characteristics. Amy asks about the bird inside Gamma. Tails says that he's spent time analyzing Gamma's specs, but it's still a bit alien to him. He's used to Badniks, but these E-series are basically a foreign language. Even though they were built to take a living organism, Tails says he could theoretically create a substitute power source to keep him online. However, it's a gamble, and he doesn't know if it would work fully or for how long. He even dug through Beta's remains that Amy brought back with her, and while Beta's components are compatible with Gamma, there's sadly nothing there that could solve this issue either. On top of that, he's muddled on how to safely remove the bird inside of Gamma. He's checked on the state of the little flicky, and he doesn't know how to get it out without greatly risking its life. He states that the bird has become so dependent on Gamma's systems that Gamma is basically acting as some kind of walking, talking life support system for the flicky. By flying back inside of him, it was placed in suspended animation, reviving Gamma while also simultaneously keeping the bird alive in a frozen state. It's a symbiotic relationship. One could not exist without the other. At this point, Eggman's probably the only one that would know what to do, but asking Eggman for help is out of the question. Amy is wrought with dismay, and the three of them contemplate what to do next. Their brainstorming is cut short, however, as Tails looks out of his window and is stunned by the sight of Angel Island falling out of the sky once again. A huge tremor shakes Tails' entire workshop. Unfortunately, Gamma's predicament has to be put on hold for the moment as he, the two birds, Tails and Amy, set out to find Sonik, who unknowingly slept through the whole event. Tails briefs Sonik on the state of Angel Island, and together they all set off there to find a badly beaten Knuckles and Eggman. When Gamma sees Eggman, he hangs back a bit, staying vigilant. He harbors a lot of grudge against the Doctor for his cruelty towards his own creations, as well as how he treated the animals, expressing something close to anger, albeit in Gamma's own way. Nevertheless, he bites his robotic tongue and sees how things will play out. Knuckles explains the situation surrounding Chaos, a creature Gamma has only heard of up until this point. Eggman then stands up shouting, "Ah! He's not gonna get away with this!" Knuckles expresses shock at the presence of one of Eggman's robots and what it's doing with Sonik and the others, which causes Eggman to turn around and see Gamma as well.
Gamma, there you are! Where have you been?
Eggman is relieved to see his prize E-Series model in one piece after the egg carrier's crash, but is confused as to why two birds are sitting on his shoulders, not even recognizing that one of them was the one he took the Chaos Emerald from just the other day. He promptly orders Gamma to come with him and help him track down Chaos. Gamma remains silent.
Do I have to repeat myself? Get over here now! That's an order! Obey your master.
Gamma replies,
Master registry has been deleted.
Eggman can't believe what he's hearing. He's furious, calling Gamma a disobedient and insolent machine. He's wondering how he's managed to override his own programming. He steps towards Gamma and threatens him with disassembly. Gamma then raises his gun to the mad scientist.
Dr. Eggman, you are my enemy. You can't control me anymore.
Sonik, Tails, and Amy step in front of Gamma, defending him. Eggman begrudgingly steps back and gets back into his Eggmobile, stating,
"This isn't over. I'll find you, you traitorous tin can."
From there, the story proceeds as normal in Sonic Adventure, only this time, Gamma is with the main cast. Chaos gathers all 7 Chaos Emeralds and demolishes Station Square. Eggman attempts to stop him using the egg carrier too, but is ultimately blown out of the sky. Gamma joins Sonic and the others in the final standoff against Perfect Chaos, bringing one of the Grey Emeralds to Sonic. Gamma isn't exactly waterproof, so he decides to sit this one out and let Sonic deal with it. There's even a pretty comical moment when Big sees Gamma again, saying,
Hey, don't steal Froggy this time, okay?
Super Sonic defeats Perfect Chaos, neutralizing the evil and negativity inside of him and restoring him back to his once benevolent self. Together, Tikal and the Water God depart back to the realm inside the Master Emerald. Sonic leaves in hot pursuit of Eggman. Knuckles returns to Angel Island, Big returns to the forest, presumably to resume fishing, and Tails and Amy go back to the Mystic Ruins workshop to resume work on Gamma. Sometime later, with no solution yet found for the pink flicky, Amy decides to take a stroll with Gamma across a beach somewhere near the outskirts of the Mystic Jungle, the two birds still resting on Gamma's shoulders, having not left his side since. Over the last few days, Amy has taught Gamma what it means to be good and do good deeds. Gamma grasps this notion, having witnessed Sonic battle Chaos to save the world, only to end up saving the creature itself. Amy notes the similarity between that event and Gamma's mission, to fight the E-Series, but to also save what's good inside of them.
But I failed my mission. I could not rescue them all.
Gamma places his hand onto his chest. Amy comforts Gamma with what Tails said, that the little bird would have died without him, and that, in essence, he's saving it just by being around. He's now free, and the pink flicky is a part of him. So, in a way, it's free too. Amy asks him what he's going to do now that all of this is over. Gamma doesn't know. His purpose was to terminate all the E-series, but now, that mission has reached an impassable brick wall. I'm sure you're all thinking, why doesn't Gamma just go with Amy, Sonik, Tails, and the rest of the cast and help them fight against Dr. Eggman? Well, that's not really his style. He spent most of SA1's story on his own as a kind of a lone wolf. I feel like whatever he's going to do now, it would be separate from the main cast, some independent soul-searching he has to do for himself. That's when Amy remembers something that she forgot to show Gamma earlier on with all the confusion. He's seen the two birds on his shoulders, but he's never seen the third one, the one that's inside of him. She calls over to the blue birdie, which then flies onto her arm. She gently opens the locket and shows Gamma the photo inside. Gamma stares long into the image and feels as though he recognizes it for some reason. His eye lenses focusing in on all the minute details of the captured scene. Suddenly, he begins twitching and convulsing wildly, just like when he first met the blue birdie. Somehow, seeing this photo has triggered something else inside of him. His heads-up display fills with static, and he begins seeing flashes of places he doesn't recognize, places he's never seen before, as well as recalling a time when the photo in the locket was taken. During this, he catches a glimpse of a person, holding out their hand, calling to the birds, lovingly stroking them with a finger as they rest on their arm. Amy's voice manages to get through to Gamma and snap him out of his trance. She asks him what's wrong. That's when Gamma says,
"New mission determined. Return home."
That's right, no one ever thought to ask, who took that photo inside the locket? Who put that locket on the blue birdie? Those three birds must have had an owner. Gamma has found his new purpose, and that's where we're gonna end this story for now. So yeah, quite a substantial change from Gamma's original story in Adventure 1. He survived and now has gained a new mission to undertake, protecting these birds and returning them to the place they're supposed to be. Also, his relationship with Amy has managed to grow further, and he's actually connected with Sonik, Tails, and a number of the other cast members. Not only that, but Eggman is now fully aware that Gamma has turned against him, something I don't think he learned in the original game's story. It'll be interesting to see how the story unfolds in the future now that Gamma is active and alive. I wanted to leave you guys with a question. Now that we're looking into the story of the bird's owner and such, what do you guys think the names of these three birds should be? Their original names given to them by their owner. This will be important in the next part, so I'd be interested to see what names you guys come up with. Also, what kind of person do you envision this owner to actually be? What do you think they would look like? What kind of personality would they have? And so on. Please share your thoughts with me in the comments below, as well as your ideas on where Gamma's journey may take him. Until next time, I've been the Sega Scourge. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next Sonic What If. Take care.